Let's finish working on our eye controls. So now what we'll need is a parent or group control to drive both eyes simultaneously. We can use a rectangle spline for that, and it's way too large. Let's go ahead and make it editable. Go to point mode, grab our selection tool, and just bring down the size. So I'll just start to scale this in. Now I'll give it more of a rectangular shape, just because I can. It's just a matter of what you'd like to see from the control. So you can go with whatever design you'd like. At this point, we'd want this to be centered between the two eyes. We could use a position constraint for that. Let's go ahead and add a constraint tag. So with this selected, we'll choose tags, character tags, and add the constraint. Let's move back to the attributes manager. With the tag selected, I'll just make sure that we're in the right mode here. Just choose tag mode. And we'll define this as a PSR constraint. Let's lock this down, and we'll go ahead and add in the left eye into our first field. So it's almost there. We now need to average its position between the two controls. So we'll go ahead and add a new target, and then add the right eye to the second field. Great. We no longer need the tag, so let's go ahead and remove it. And we can start to move this out a bit. I'll go ahead and disable axis snapping. Now let's go ahead and move this forward. Keep in mind that we are not using an aim system to tie the eyes, so you could actually have this as close as you'd like. You could have it behind the eyes if you'd like, but we want to easily select these controls, and because of that, we'll just keep the gap that we would normally have. So just go ahead and bring this out a bit. Go back to point mode and scale this down. Still too large. And I think that will work out well. If anything, I think we can bring it a bit closer. It's not too necessary. I think that's going to be fine. Okay, great. So let's say we go ahead and rename this to anim eyes 01. We'll add this to our controls layer, and then we'll want this stored underneath our upper jaw control. Alright, so we can go ahead and find that object. We could always select the control and use scroll to first active. Go ahead and add that to this hierarchy. Keep in mind that if you wanted to, yes, you could add the subcontrollers to that same hierarchy. So it's really not a big deal at all. But now the next step would be to just check its transforms. I'll go ahead and unlock the attributes manager. Let's go back to mode and set this to object. And notice here I'm actually under lock mode. So if I were to go ahead and turn that off and go ahead and select the control again, we can get back to those properties. So if you find that it's not quite working the way it normally would, the attributes manager, when you select your objects, just go ahead and check that. Okay, but again, we're just checking its transforms. We need to make sure that they're frozen to clean it up, and then we can go ahead and recolor this. Remember, it's centered, so we can use that same color of red we've been using. All right, great. So to finish up here, we now need to tie the subcontrollers to follow this control. Now, we don't want to do that directly, okay, because then we would lose the control we need over the subcontrollers. So we can go ahead and work with groups to remedy that. I'm going to go ahead and select the left eye and use Alt-G. There's our null. Let's go ahead and rename that to NDRV, followed by the object's name. That's anim Li01. Okay, we can go to the object tab and turn off the display of the null. And then we can go ahead and take care of the right eye. So that's NDRV anim RI01. With both groups and their controls selected, let's go ahead and freeze their transforms. All right, so let's go ahead and decide how we're going to connect these together. It's actually going to be a driven key relationship, so we just need to decide what axis needs to control what. We'll have the position y-axis control the pitch axis of our control, the subcontrol, the group that is, and then we'll have the x-axis control the heading axis. So back to the attributes manager with our control selected, we could always copy the attributes manager, make sure this is locked down. We'll grab the position y-axis, right click, and choose set driver. Now we'll need to go to the group. We can start with the left eye. With that group selected, we can go ahead and go to the pitch axis and choose set driven absolute. It's getting cut off in the video, but it's right underneath set driver. All right, so there's one. Let's do the same thing for the right eye. Grab its group, go to the pitch axis, right click, and choose set driven absolute. And now we can test this out. When we grab the main control here and start to move this, notice both eyes follow, and we could still go in, grab the subcontroller, and we can go ahead and animate freely. Very cool. If you notice that does not happen as you rotate the control, chances are you've added it to the control and not the group. So we just need to take our time to make sure we do this right. Let's go ahead and finish up here. We'll go to the x-axis of the control and choose set driver. And now we'll go to the heading axis of our two groups and choose set driven absolute. There's one, and there is two. Let's go ahead and take a look. So when we now grab the control and start to move this around, or you can see that they kind of move in reverse when we move them. The up and down axis works fine. So if that happens, if this reverse behavior happens, well, we know how to fix that. If we were to go to our constraint tag, we could just go to our range mapper node and set this to reverse. All right, let's go ahead and test this out. When we start to move our control, notice we're getting this mirroring effect, and that's pretty cool, but we just need to do that for the left eye to fix this. All right, so we'll go back, go to the range mapper node. After we go back to our espresso tag, we'll set this to reverse. And here's what we end up with. Our control works just fine. Beautiful. Okay, so just taking a look at things. Now when we grab the upper jaw and start to move that around, that's cool. And then we can go in, grab the eyes, and start to move those. And I'll go ahead and do that in local mode. You can see that everything works properly. Very exciting. And then we can go to the subcontroller and start to move that if we'd like. Very fun. Okay, so I'll go ahead and undo back, resetting things. And that finishes up this lesson. All right, so again, just some cleanup work. You just want to check to make sure that the groups that we've added have been hidden. So you can see that this right group, I'll need to go ahead and set the display to none. Everything else should be good to go. Feel free to rename your espresso tags, but we should be just fine because when we use that set-driven tool, it kind of gives us a descriptive name already, so it's not too necessary here, but you can if you like. But that's going to finish this lesson. So in the next lesson, we're ready to work on our eyelids, getting those tied into this eye control rig.